Okay, Council, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and staff, we're pleased to get going right at 7 o'clock sharp. We'll call the meeting to order. Today's meeting is being held as a virtual meeting due to the declared emergency. This meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people. We convey our respect and thank them for their contributions to our culture, our community, and our past and future partnerships. Council, has any member of council declared a pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Yes, Amy, I see your hand up and the paperwork's been submitted. Thank you. And what is it in relationship to?
I, Councillor Amy Choi, declare potential deemed and indirect pecuniary interest for today's agenda. Item numbers 8D1, 8CE, or 16C and 16E. For the following reasons: for 8D, my spouse is a volunteer firefighter.
Yep.
And then 16C and E, I have a business relationship with a person who may have pecuniary interest in the matter.
Okay, thank you. And all you have to do is just perhaps take your image off the screen, Amy, when that comes around, and we can just proceed as regular. Any other councillors? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to the agenda item. It's recommended that the agenda of January 26th be adopted as presented. Are there any errors or additions? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated? Councillor Scholdice, seconded by Councillor Bartlett. Questions? All in favor? Carried. We have a delegation before us this evening. 4A is the Southwest Middlesex Arena project. If I could allow Greg Storms to take the courtesy of introducing Allison to us again and to our listening public, I'd appreciate that very much. Greg, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ellen. And through you to council and everyone that's listening, I'd like to introduce Allison Hannay. Hopefully I got that right, Allison. Allison is a principal architect with Cornerstone Architecture in London, Ontario, since its inception in 1991. Cornerstone's work is focused on 4 sectors: facilities for children, public buildings, education buildings, and seniors communities, with projects located across southwestern Ontario and the Greater Toronto Area. Cornerstone is also a leader in design for sustainability, and Allison is a LEED accredited professional through the Canadian Green Building Council. As part of her work, Allison has led teams involved in the design of many public buildings, including the Middlesex Center Community Wellness Center and Recreation Complex, Stony Creek Community Center, YMCA and Library, South London Community Center, and Lambeth Arena, as well as our own beautiful daycare. We've also been involved in creation and construction of public libraries, elementary and secondary schools across the province. So with all that, I would certainly like to welcome Allison to tonight's council meeting.
Thank you, Greg. And Allison, I'll give you the floor. Thank you very much for joining us, and make yourself comfortable, and we'll look forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Mayor Mayhew. And it's nice to see all of you again, and hopefully you're not sick of seeing me yet. We're excited to present to you this evening the work that we've completed to date on the Glencoe Memorial Arena project. I think hopefully you'll be excited by what we show you tonight and the work that we're planning to do. So I'll share my screen, and hopefully this comes up okay. Okay, can everybody see that all right?
Yes, it's coming through good.
Perfect. Okay. So this is your lovely building, Glencoe Memorial Arena, located on Mill Street. Mill Street on the drawings is located at the bottom of the page. And this is an overall drawing that shows kind of the scope of work that we're doing. As you're aware, the project consists of replacing the rink slab, which is this area toned in gray, as well as the refrigeration equipment for the building. And then also doing an upgrade on all of the other spaces for accessibility and finishing. We completed a review at the beginning of the project that basically identified that most of the mechanical electrical systems had reached their end of life and needed replacement. And also that the building was not sprinklered. So during the course of this project, will be quite a complete facelift to the building in terms of the front of house areas and refrigeration and the rink slab. And I'm just going to go to the next drawing, which shows the ground floor in a little bit more detail. So again, the rink slab is, you can see, toned in gray. We're proposing a small addition to the front to assist with accessibility. There will be, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. Hopefully everybody can see that okay on their screens. A new vestibule here with sliding doors that it goes into a larger lobby space. We are replacing the existing lift that's currently there because it doesn't meet current standards. In the lobby space itself, we are reconfiguring where the manager's office is. We are maintaining the existing boardroom and moving the skate sharpening space to an area just adjacent to the corridor that accesses the arena. We are completely upgrading the men's and women's washrooms located in this location, and also providing a universal washroom to comply with accessibility codes within the building. And then you can see here that this is our somewhat expanded ice equipment room with a new chiller and pumps and all kinds of great equipment. There'll be a new trench that goes across the corridor into the rink slab. And these are doors that go to the exterior, to the main chiller. We are also upgrading mechanical, electrical boilers, electrical service while we're here as well. As we move over to this side of the plan, so as you come in the lobby, basically the configuration is the same. However, what we are doing is basically upgrading all of the dressing rooms. There'll be new finishes, new washroom fixtures, new benches, new flooring and paint throughout, and designating dressing room 6, which is in this corner, as an accessible dressing room, which again is a code requirement. We're also adding a new referees room back in this area here. So the space will accommodate referees with their own toilet and sink and shower space in this location. The new machine room for the elevator will be in this location, and we've incorporated a new custodial closet here. We are also replacing the doors that go into the arena itself so that they don't swing into the corridor. And again, that's more of an accessibility concern than anything else. And again, you'll see major upgrades throughout for lighting, fire alarm, sprinklers, mechanical, and other electrical throughout the building. On the second floor, again, into this space. This is your existing auditorium. Again, we'll be upgrading the finishes in this room, providing new technology to allow for meetings to occur in that space. So with data and power in appropriate locations, you can see that the new lift opens onto this space directly here, coming into the auditorium, as well as upgrading the kitchen space with new countertops and a new NFPA hood for the stove. And again, making sure that we are compliant with codes in that area. In this corner, we are upgrading the washrooms that are currently there. There are currently 2 washroom fixtures. We're creating one regular washroom and one barrier-free washroom, again, to ensure that accessibility is provided throughout the building. Going very quickly here, so and definitely if you have any questions, please ask me. But part of this will also be to upgrade the sound system within the arena space itself to provide. I mean, it's not a very fancy sound system, but one that will provide clear audio through the ice rink and the warm viewing area, as well as in the bleacher space itself. And then finally, I guess kind of the exciting picture is the upgrade to the front of the building. I'm sure you're all familiar with it right now, but this is the very small addition that we're adding to the front to allow for accessibility, replacing the orange parapets and bringing in some new colors here. We had based this on the Southwest Middlesex branding, and I understand from Jill that is under review right now. So again, this can be changed when the branding is completed to reflect the new colors if they are changed going forward. But as you can see, we're proposing that what is behind the orange siding here was originally windows. We're proposing to replace the siding with color-toned glass that obviously won't be windows going into the dressing rooms, because the dressing rooms are behind this, but will be printed with images of ice and recreational ice events, really just to bring some life to the front elevation of this building. The front elevation here has a lot of glass, which will bring light deep into the corridor and lobby spaces of the building, and then some sunshades that will hang vertically from the curtain wall, and again some color to bring some life to the front of the building. And we are very close to completing our drawings right now. We are waiting anxiously for the ministry approval to proceed with tender on the project. But in general, the project's gone well from our perspective, and the engineering drawings are up to date and ready to go.
Well, that's great, Allison. Is there any further presentation? There's just a little bit of silence there. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I think these were the images that I had ready to show you for this evening, to give you an update of the work that's been done to date.
Okay, well, thank you. If you could give us our screen back and I can see the counselors, we'll see if we can entertain any questions. Thank you very much, Allison, for that. Greg, thank you for those introductory remarks. Council, if there's any questions you'd like to address, I know it's a preliminary report. It is new in this journey that we're taking. And I'm sure Allison will be back to see us again and other decisions to make, but questions, I'm sure entertain them at this time, if you would, through the chair. Yes, Councillor Scholdice. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just curious on the maps, where is the new Horizon room located?
That would be the boardroom, I believe. That's the existing room on the first floor on the right-hand side when you come in. So it's just listed as a boardroom, but that would be the room.
Yeah, that was my understanding, Greg, that boardroom remained basically unchanged, and that's where they have historically met. Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Cowell, followed by Deputy Mayor Wilkins.
Hi, thank you so much. Nice to see you again, Allison. You had mentioned your background in green buildings, and I know this is a refurbishment, so we won't have access to all of the opportunities that a new arena would have, but can you speak to some of the efficiencies that we might find as a result of this? Please, thank you.
Most definitely. I think the major savings will be within the mechanical list and electrical systems that are being proposed for the building. The refrigeration system and the dehumidifier and other mechanical components of the building will be a high efficiency equipment. So again, replacing 25 to 30-year-old equipment in many cases will produce a much better result in terms of your energy consumption. Also, all of the lighting throughout will be replaced with LED lighting. And again, that is certainly an energy saver. Many of the fixtures throughout the building are fluorescent and need to be replaced. We will be putting occupancy sensors on most of the spaces now, so that lights don't remain on unnecessarily. And so similarly, that will also improve the energy usage in the building. You have a fairly major solar array on the roof of this building, which is exciting. We have kind of looked for opportunities in where we can to rely a little bit more on electricity than natural gas, although many of the pieces of equipment still rely on a natural gas service. But to the extent that we can, we've tried to do that. Again, the glass at the front of the building will be all new double glazed glass and be high efficiency curtain wall system. So while that's something you don't have right now, I think the impact of that in improving the quality of space within the building is certainly worth the potential change in energy usage in that area, which I think will be fairly limited. We did have limited opportunity, unfortunately, to upgrade the building envelope. So the existing roof that was replaced, again, I'm not quite sure how long ago. I'm sure that the insulation was upgraded on the roof when that happened, and that would have been prior to the solar panel installation. But where we are putting in new roof systems, they are all with 6 inches of insulation and really attempting to improve the building envelope where we can.
Great. Deputy Mayor Wilkins, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew. Thank you for the presentation tonight, Allison. Allison, I may have missed this, but when you were discussing the front there, the boardroom, and we call it the New Horizon Room, what changes did you mention, if any, to that?
So I can go back and you all know where it is. So
Sure.
Within that space itself, we're upgrading all of the finishes. So new flooring, new paint, new ceiling, new lighting. It will have better ventilation because of the new mechanical system that we're putting into the building. We're putting in new countertops and millwork in cabinets in the corner of the room where they are currently. And it will also be provided with technology so that people can easily do presentations in that space.
Okay, thank you very much.
Council, we'll continue with questions. Are there any? Yes, Councillor Cowell, go ahead, followed by Councillor Vink.
Just one last one. Currently at the arena, because of the way the boards and the pad line up, there seems to be quite a bit of seepage of ice on the outside of the skating area. And I know there has been some discussion about having the heaters on and how it doesn't always create the nicest ice, and maybe I'm wrong about that. Will this help fix that solution and remove it and make it like a safer walking?
So the right now the rink slab is down a little bit lower than would be expected in an arena. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're referring to, but the transition from where you walk out from the dressing rooms or the main viewing area onto the ice will be more of a level landing now. And again, all of the refrigeration piping going into the rink area will be new as well. So the rink slab will be brand new concrete with refrigeration piping and insulation below that as well. And again, that should help address some of those problems. And Greg, it looks like you have something to add to that.
Yeah, and just Yeah, thanks, Mary Ellen, and through you, and sort of piggyback what Allison's talking about. I mean, Krista, Councillor Cow, I think you're talking about the header pipe that runs from the rink to, which brings the refrigerant, the brine back into the compressor room. And that totally depends on the type of covers we have on that pipe. And right now they're going to be replaced. But really what you have is you have the ice that's building up on that header pipe that then ends up coming through the covers. And that's where you see it. And you see it on the ends and where that brine pipe is, that header pipe is located. So we will make sure that that there's no trip and falls or that type of thing moving forward. But what we see today is really typical of an old system, and with the new system, it should rectify all those particular areas.
Yeah, that all of the new piping is going within a trench that's below, and we're able to cover that again. You may not even see it when we're finished. So.
Thank you. And Councillor Vink, thank you for your patience. Martin, go ahead. Martin looks frozen. I'm going to come back to
Thank
Martin.
you, Mayor Allen, to
Yep.
Allison. When I looked at the design,
Martin, you're breaking up. I'm going to give you a minute, Martin, and I'm going to go to Councillor Bartlett. He has his hand up, and hopefully your technical difficulties will be over by then. Councillor Bartlett, go ahead, and I'll come back to Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor, through you to Allison. The little elevator or the lift, is it going to be approximately the same size, or what are your plans for that?
So it is slightly larger than what is there now. It is code compliant. The existing one apparently can't be certified any longer, unfortunately,
No.
because of its age and inability to get parts. So then the new elevator, it's actually a limited use I'm trying to think of the last letter for that elevator. It is not a full-blown elevator because those are very difficult to build into existing buildings like yours. So it's designed specifically for retrofit projects. It is not your old kind of lift like the one that you have now. Good. Where for all intents and purposes, the doors slide open. It looks and feels very, very much like an elevator. The only difference is it doesn't have the same weight capacities as a regular elevator. But again, in situations like this, it's not usually an issue. We've had really great success with them in numerous buildings where we've been in older buildings and had to replace existing, and it is compliant with current accessibility codes.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Follow-up, any other questions, Council? Yes, we have two. Councillor McGill first, followed by Councillor Scholdice.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through the mayor, can I ask Allison, when we did the daycare, I think we had 19 expressions of interest in building it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got that down to 7 and then 6 bid. We have a policy that all our contractors have to, their employees have to be all vaccinated. Now, I imagine you probably know about whether potential bidders would. I'm just afraid, is this going to be a problem? Will this lead to less bids? Like, I know there's another project on our agenda tonight, and we had 9 quotes, so that's great, even though I'm sure they were all aware of our policy. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. So you're probably aware that there is a pre-qualification for this project that was published on the website for Southwest Middlesex. It actually closed today, and we have lots and lots of interest, which is great. And the contractors that we're working with have become very used to dealing with vaccination policies. Many of these contractors will be working with school boards or Western University or other municipalities that have similar requirements. The important thing will be that we include that information in the tender when it goes out so that they know what they're getting into, and can provide the attestations that are required by the municipality.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a concern. The majority of while there are some within the contracting community that are holdouts. There, many of them have complied with those requirements simply to continue working.
Thank you, Allison. Greg, I'll let you cut in here. I have two counselors that are had their hands up, but quickly, if you could come on through the chair, that'd be great.
Just a point of clarification, our vaccination policy requires that the contractor sign an attestation form that would say that, if they do provide us with the service and staff, that they are vaccinated, but we're not requiring companies to be completely vaccinated. It's just if you work in our workplace, you're going to have to provide vaccinated employees to us. So I just want to make sure that everybody understood that.
Thank you. Councillor Scholdice, I'm going to allow Councillor Vink to go first. He has some technical difficulties there and his hand was up. Mike, I'll get back to you immediately. Martin, it's good to see you back. Go ahead, Martin. Ask your question.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Allison. I was looking at the design and the front end of the arena where you're going to have the double glass. It seems like that's quite an expensive addition. Could you comment on that, Allison?
So again, we prepared an initial budget for the project that I provided to our team that we're working with. There is a cost to it. It's not an elaborate entrance by any stretch. It's quite small, but it does provide for accessibility, and it does provide I think a much needed facelift to the building. I think that Southwest Middlesex has been doing some really exciting work and making the community an attractive place to be, and I think it just kind of lends that pride of place to a community building that is, I think, important, frankly. Is there a cheaper way to do it? Of course, there's a cheaper way to do it, but it would look much more similar to what is there currently. And again, I think we've tried to be prudent with the dollars that we're proposing to spend on providing a facelift to this building. If I may be so bold, and I appreciate. I am always very sensitive to the fact that communities are making significant investments into their buildings, and that it's important to them. And I don't take that lightly by any stretch of the imagination. So it's really just I think a relatively reasonable way to provide that to the community.
Okay, Council, we'll continue with the questions. Councillor Scholdice, and we're going to try to wrap this up in maybe about 5 minutes if we can. Councillor Scholdice, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through you, I guess, to our own staff. What happens if the tenders come back further over budget?
I'll let Jill answer that. We're certainly hoping it doesn't in a competitive tender bid, but Jill, you know the process, and if you could advise Councillor Scholdice.
Sure. So maybe I'll just ask the question in terms of like obviously the decision is up to council to award the lowest bid. That's council's decision. But in terms of the funding opportunity, is that what you're referring to?
No, I guess what I'm referring to is if we're over budget, can the project be scaled back in such a way to meet budget?
So this will be a request for tenders. So what Allison is preparing are the documents, and the bids that would come in would be based on the drawings that she has prepared. Correct, Allison?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's what they would be bidding on, so that it's the only thing to compare is the dollar amount. So then the decision comes to council about awarding the recommended bid.
Okay, have I missed anybody here? I don't think so. Allison, I want to thank you. The mayor always has the last question. I want to make sure all of my councillors have a chance to get in on this. Allison, the last question is, arenas are notorious for bad acoustical effects. And they're about the worst building in the world for acoustics. We have made some modifications. I know there's some simple things we've put in to mitigate that, bags hanging from the ceilings, things of that nature. Is acoustics entered into any of your building design?
I mean, we haven't done it, completed an acoustical study on the building or the arena space itself. I think part of acoustics in an arena is having a decent sound system so that people can hear announcers or music or whatever it may be properly. So in terms of adding anything specific to the space, we don't have anything planned right now other than an updated sound system, which will be designed to kind of take advantage of the space itself and limit the reverberation through the speaker system.
Great. Thank you. Greg, I see your hand up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then just stand off on my end, Alan, Mayor Allen, through you to council. I think one of the things that is, that we will really be proud of with this building is, I mean, the technology of today, as far as an audio system for the main rink is different than what they went through even 10 years ago. So that there will unfold and it will be much better than what we have today. And the other exciting thing for me with regards to the building is the building will be set up so that you can rent a meeting room and you can plug your computer in and have a television screen and do presentations and that type of thing. And the key thing for me too is, like, one of the questions we had today was should we put should the shuffleboard lines go back on the floor in the meeting hall room? And the answer was yes, because now we have the programmer and the programming to support stuff like that in this building. And I'm really quite proud of the work that Allison's group has put into this, because it will give us this opportunity to use this building year round. And this was a big part of the Facilities and Rec Master Plan direction, as well as the support from council to get this project done. So I'm excited about that.
Well, thank you, Greg. And Allison, thank you very much. We'll close the discussion off now. Our surveys and research indicate that recreation is very important to our residents in Southwest Middlesex, and we look forward to seeing this move along, and hopefully it'll all come in competitively and within budget. Thank you once again, and I really look forward to seeing you again, Allison. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks to everybody for your time tonight.
Good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Council, we'll go on to the number 5, the consent agenda. Items
Why didn't you call that? It looks as though Mayor Allen was moved over to an attendee, but I think he should be able to come back.
I did a disappearing act on you there. Consent agenda 5A. January 12th, the draft special council meeting minute budget. Council, if there's any you wish to pull out, we'll move them to new business number 12. 5B, council draft, January 12th, council minutes again. And 5C, D and E, correspondence from St. Clair Region Conservation Authority regarding fee scheduling and mandatory responsibilities. Yes, Councillor Cowell.
Sorry, I was getting ready for the next one. I was excited.
Okay, yeah. And 5E, St. Clair Region Conservation Authority highlights. And 5, I don't see, oh yes. Would you like one of the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority pulled out?
No,
Okay.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm like,
Yeah,
come to me
5F.
for the Middlesex County resolution.
And that is 5F. And so we will mention that to the council, Middlesex County, Thames Valley District School Board Trustee Distribution.
That one's me.
All right, we'll take that out.
Yes,
5E.
please. And we can support it later down.
Okay. I'll just make note of that. (5G) Minister of Transportation, the gas tax program. It's interesting, just remind council that gas consumption has dramatically dropped during COVID-19. So the province is suggesting that we use 2019 numbers on that. So we will have less of an impact on the funds that will come through the gas tax. 5H, Southwest Middlesex vouchers. Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead. You'd like that?
Yes, I'd like to bring.
You'd like that taken out, and we'll discuss that.
Yes, I would.
Thank you. 5H. Okay, that's good. Just to remind council, and particularly the listening public, that the voucher amount for $2,675,000 is seems extraordinarily high, and we certainly don't want anyone to panic on that. These vouchers include costs for policing. There's education taxes involved in here. There's county levies involved in here. And there are a number of drainage accounts in here that under the user pay system, under the Drainage Act, those monies will become forth. And in terms of the two construction projects we had, they were the water line and the daycare center. There's accounts in there. They are subsidized to a very large extent too. So though the number looks good, the impact on our municipality is not as great as you think, and we certainly need the attributes of policing. May I have a motion to accept the correspondence items as presented, with the exceptions of the two that were pulled out? Can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Deputy Mayor Wilkins, Councillor Cowell, discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We have some planning matters before us, and it will necessitate us going into the Committee of Adjustment to consider planning application A1 2022 and B1 2022 at 7:38 p.m. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor McGill, Councillor Schuldeis, discussion? In favor? Motion is carried. The public meeting will commence. We are now in Committee of the Adjustment. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, council. Seeing none, we'll continue. The minutes of the November 24th Committee of Adjustment have been circulated. If there are no errors or additions, may it be moved and seconded by council. Moved by Councillor Cowell, seconder Councillor Choi. Discussion.
No, I had a comment. I believe that the motion that was passed, and please correct me, for the McCullough minor variance did not include that the height of the accessory building from the ground not exceed anything. I think it just said that it would be carried and that it didn't have those limitations.
Council, any comment on that? Recall? I remember the discussion on that, and I remember that council were quite flexible in the height of that building. It escapes me with the amount of correspondence before me whether there was a specific height attributed to it or not, but I know that it was that council were very comfortable with it exceeding the standard. I would have to know what Stephanie, could you give us any guidance? The decision of council was to go beyond what was what planning considered the maximum height. Do you recall that discussion?
Yeah, through the mayor. From what I recall, we did include a stipulation or a condition in regards to the height. I don't have that exact number right before me today, but certainly I do remember that the number provided was amended to reflect what the proposal was by the applicant.
Okay, that's fine. As long as the applicant's wish was granted, that's, I think, the onus of our conversation here, and you have confidence that it is?
I'm not sure the number exactly,
No,
so
I know, but
we can check that.
okay,
Certainly.
okay. Well, perhaps they could be accepted in principle, and following Stephanie, you know that the concern that's been expressed. Councillor Cal, go
Could
ahead.
we perhaps defer these minutes to the next committee meeting and pass both
Yeah.
of them at the same time?
That's council's wish. If there's a mover and a seconder for that, or we can just do it on a friendly basis and Stephanie can get back to us. What's council's wish so we can move on? You want to make that a motion, Councillor Cal? We'll see if we can get you a seconder. Okay, is there
Certainly.
a seconder for that? Councillor Scholdice, that the minutes be delayed for approval, so that the clarification on the height of the building can be ascertained to meet the request of the applicant. All in favor? Carried. The public meeting is application for minor variance A1 2022 6460 Riverside Drive. Any members of the public wishing to comment on the application have been encouraged to provide written submission to the clerk. Members of the public who do not provide written submission to the clerk in advance of the meeting and decide to provide comment while the meeting is ongoing will need to confirm their interest, and in so doing, during the comment recess, part F of the meeting, and make their comment submission during the oral submission part. Stephanie, if you could now provide for the committee the purpose of this meeting.
I can, thank you. And I'm just going to share my screen with you. Here we go. As council will recall, on December 15th, 2021, council passed a resolution in accordance with section 45 1.3 of the Planning Act, which permits an application for a minor variance to be submitted prior to the second anniversary of the day on which zoning bylaw amendment application P10 2021 was granted. And as a result, the applicant has submitted a minor variance for a lot known municipally as 6460 Riverside Drive, or also known as Arrowwood Farms. So the purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw, section 5.4.6C, in order to permit the establishment of a pavilion with a maximum floor area of 325 square meters or 3,500 square feet, whereas currently the maximum area of a pavilion permitted in the site-specific general agricultural A1-6 zone is 279 square meters or 3,000 square feet. And the applicant has advised that since the rezoning application has occurred, an additional 500 square feet of space was needed in order to accommodate a washroom as part of the pavilion. Staff have evaluated the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance and are of the opinion that it is considered to be minor in nature. It is an appropriate use of the land, and it is consistent with the Southwest Middlesex official plan and zoning bylaw. Notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The county engineer had no comments, and Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority had no objections to the application. So it is recommended that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for providing that purpose and report. At this point of the meeting, council, as you know, the applicant's remarks are in order. Jill, is there Anyone that wishes to speak to this that made the application?
Yes, I believe Mr. Malo is on the screen.
Okay, there he is. I see him? Phil, geez. You know, the light's shining on you, and I thought you looked like Mark McGill there for a moment there. So, Phil, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and the council, the committee, would be very pleased to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a pleasure to address all of you, and thank you for taking the time to consider this application. And the reason for it, as Stephanie has already said, is basically we wanted to move the washrooms inside. We had originally thought that maybe it would be an exterior separate building from the pavilion, but we're going to combine it under the same roof as the pavilion. So it's no net increase in the number of people that we can have. It's still, the capacity is still going to be capped at 150, but it will allow us to have washrooms and some storage area and just facilitate service to our customers under the pavilion as opposed to having it in a separate building. So it's, again, as a minor change, and certainly appreciate any questions you might have. I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. We'll have that opportunity, Phil, so you stick with us, and I'm pleased to see that you could be accommodated in that. It's much better in inclement weather and for the comfort of your patrons to have that. At this point, we will go to members' remarks. Council, are there any questions that you wish to ask Phil currently? Okay, seeing none, the report was quite comprehensive, and all the information obviously was gleaned by council. Jill, have there been any oral submissions of delegates?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. And have there been any written submissions?
No.
Council and Phil, at this point of the committee meeting, there's a 5-minute recess to allow any of our viewers to come on. So we will adjourn now and come back at 7:52. Jill, if that works for you, it works for me. Okay. Hey, Linda, how you doing there? Where are you? Where are you? I think we're almost ready to go, Council. Thank you, Joe. I think we're all back now. And I believe I have sound. Jill, has there been any oral submissions from other participants?
No one is registered.
Okay. Applicant's final remarks. Mr. Modell, would you like to say anything else to council? You're certainly welcome to.
Just thank you very much for your time and consideration. Appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, and Phil, you hang in there. You'll see a decision shortly. Council, at this point of our committee meeting, we make a decision. The planner has put forth a recommendation as being granted. What's your wish? Deputy Mayor Wilkins, Councillor Bartlett, as a seconder, you're supporting the recommendation?
Yes, I am.
Council, any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the application? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you, Council. The public meeting application B1 2022 5417 Oldie Drive Appin. Members of the public wishing to comment on the application have been encouraged to provide submissions to the clerk by noon, January 25th. Written submissions must include full name and address. Members of the public who do not provide a written submission to the clerk in advance of the meeting and decide to provide comment or oral submission while the meeting is ongoing will need to confirm their interest in so doing and comment during the recess part of the meeting and make their comments. Stephanie, will you introduce this application to the committee and state its purpose?
I will, thank you. Right, so the purpose and effect of the application for consent is to sever a parcel of agricultural land that is located on the east side of the MacArthur Drain, which is highlighted on yellow. I think you can now just see my screen. I think I got a message to say participants can now see what you're looking at. So it is on the screen highlighted in yellow. And it is intended for lot addition purposes, having an area of approximately 50 acres to be merged with the abutting lot, known municipally as 5439 Old Drive. And the abutting lot would increase in area from about 100 acres to 150 acres and will continue to be used as agricultural land crop production farmed by Dairy Acres Farm Limited. The lands proposed to be severed and merged do not have any frontage along Old Drive and therefore no direct road access. The applicant has advised that the land located on the east side of the MacArthur Drain, again, the yellow portion on your screen, is currently accessed by a bridge that is required to be upgraded in order to accommodate farm equipment. The intent of the lot addition is to improve accessibility to the lands east of MacArthur Drain, as the lands receiving the lot addition, being 5439 Old Drive, do have frontage along Mayfair Road, so it is a corner lot, allowing access to the parcel without the need for bridge access. The lands proposed to be retained would be located on the west side of the MacArthur Drain, highlighted in red on your screen, and be approximately 50 acres in size. And the lands proposed to be retained contains a single detached dwelling, 3 agricultural buildings, and agricultural land in crop production. The provincial policy statement, the county official plan, permit lot adjustments in the agricultural area for legal or technical reasons, so long as it does not result in the creation of a new lot, and that agricultural activities are not adversely affected. While the proposed application will not result in the creation of a new lot, staff do have concerns in regards to the size of the retained lands, as well as precedent for future applications that result in undersized agricultural parcels. While farming consolidation is generally encouraged, and the issue of access due to the location of the municipal drain may be considered logical from a practical perspective, staff must evaluate both the severed and retained parcels to conformity with the policy documents. The PPS, the County of Middlesex official plan, and the Southwest Middlesex official plan generally discourage the division of agricultural land that will result in smaller farm parcels. Additionally, the County of Middlesex official plan, the Southwest Middlesex official plan, and the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw require the minimum lot area for an agricultural parcel to be 40 hectares or 98 acres in size. Although the lands proposed to be severed and merged will result in farm consolidation for the neighboring operation, resulting in a 150 acre parcel of land, it will also result in the retained land being an undersized parcel of agricultural land of 50 acres, which is smaller than what is commonly found in Southwest Middlesex and the County of Middlesex as a whole. Section 5.4.1.6 of the Southwest Middlesex official plan speaks to the division of farm parcels and includes a list of criteria to consider for both the severed and retained parcels when evaluating such proposals. Staff have reviewed the criteria and are of the opinion that although the intent of the proposed lot addition is to increase accessibility to the east side of the municipal drain, it will still result in agricultural land parcel that does not meet the minimum area required in both the Southwest Middlesex official plan and the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw. Notice of the application has been circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The St. Clair Region Conservation Authority noted that the property is regulated under Ontario Regulation 171/06. The lands to be severed are to be merged with the parcel immediately adjacent, therefore no new lots will be created. As a result of the lot addition, access to the severed lands will be obtainable without the need to construct a new or upgraded an existing creek crossing. So St. Clair Region Conservation Authority has no comments on the application. The county engineer has no comments. Bell Canada has no comments. Southwest Middlesex Chief Building Official has no objections. And the Southwest Middlesex Drainage Superintendent did note that the municipality is in the process of reconstruction of the enclosed portion of the MacArthur Drain, which will affect the assessment of the properties for the severance and the farm merger. And this has already been sent to the engineer that is in the process of writing this report. And with regards to the other drains in question, there will need to be the apportionment form and the 500 deposit submitted for the Morrow Drain, Ramey Drain, and the open portion of the MacArthur Drain. So it is recommended that the application be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Jill, we're at the process of the meeting where the applicant can make a remark. Are they present? Catherine Goff, I see her name on the screen. Catherine, how are you this evening? If you'd like to unmute yourself. Thank you. How are you?
Hello, thank you. It's Ron. Yeah. It's Ron.
Ron, okay, yeah, I saw you.
I'd like to point out that no agricultural land would be lost and that there would be no need for the upgraded bridge in the future. And the land has no access from the road and is already fragmented by a 32-foot drain. So that's about all my comments.
Okay, Ron. That's Thank you for participating in that. If there's anything else, Ron, you'll have a chance to come back to us again in a few minutes. So you just hang tight there, okay? And we may call upon you again, okay?
Thank you.
Council, is the opportunity for councilors to speak on this. Yes, Deputy Mayor Wilkins, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. It's my understanding that as a result of a prior application similar to this approved by Southwest Middlesex last year, the County Council is undertaking a review of this policy. And I understand, Mayor Mayhew, you are one of the people on that committee.
I am.
Do you want to just speak to that a little bit so that this council is just aware of where that committee is at this time in terms of progress being made or a decision being made?
Yes, the committee has met twice. The last one just recently. Our first meeting had an array of planning policies before us and the subjects of study. And during that presentation, it was entertained to bring before the table for discussion at the committee level the minimum size of farms. We compared Lambton, Middlesex, Chatham, Kent, all of which has smaller parcel sizes than Southwest Middlesex or Middlesex County and what they condone. The committee was very split in the conversation. In fact, the meeting fell far short of going over the agenda. That subject of farm size and severances seemed to preoccupy the meeting. During that discussion, it became very apparent, and through my own experience at trying to push severances through county council, and I don't push them through unless I believe that there's some credibility to them, that Crispin Coleman, who speaks to this very often from the Ontario farmers, is not for in any way and very aggressively appeal severance applications that have been passed by councils and would have the chance of coming before county council and on to the tribunal. There is a significant difference of opinion on that. That being said, on our second meeting, the sensitivity of this subject came up again, and the committee is focused on this. We'll be bringing some other planners in to discuss this. We know that it is a sensitive issue, but we have not constructed any recommendations to bring before the county at this time, and the conversation is still ongoing. Yes, follow up, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew, for that update. You know, I think this application might be a good example of where change could occur with that policy.
Exactly.
You know, so I think for that reason, I would like to see this deferred until there's some decision made by county council. And I would make that a motion when the time comes, Mayor Mayhew.
Okay, that's fine. The only thing I caution you on, Deputy Mayor, that there will be a significant timeline, I think, of discussion ahead of us. So it is not going to happen immediately. But I'll just caution you on that. Is there a seconder for the motion? Yes, Jill?
Sorry, I think the deputy mayor was saying when the time came.
Oh, when the time came. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay. No, I thought you were moving to defer it. That was not.
I will move to defer it, Mayor Mayhew, when the time comes. But actually, I think there will probably be a decision made this term. I would suspect.
Yeah, there will be. Yeah. Okay. Is there a seconder for that?
So, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Jill.
I think you want to go through the rest of the public meeting process.
Okay. All right. Okay. When the time comes. All right. Any other questions from council? Councillor Cow.
Through the chair to the applicant, I would like to know, I can think of at least 3 properties you might own that are already undersized. Can you tell us how many undersized, and that's under 100 acres properties you have, and how many you think your neighbors have, and whether or not they struggle farming?
There you go. Yes. Sam.
Yes, I have, I guess it would be 3 undersized properties. From 45 to 77 acres, I guess, plus the 100 acres, 2 parcels of that. And as long, I guess as long as you have small parcels and they add up to larger acreage, I guess you'd be okay.
Okay.
That's an area.
Council, I'm washing your hands. Are there any other questions?
There was a 2-part to the question, and
All right.
so
Follow-up? Yep, go ahead.
the
Go ahead.
second part of the question is, were they aware of how many undersized farms that there are in that neighborhood?
Was who aware? Yeah,
The applicant.
the applicant. Okay.
I know there's undersized farms in the neighborhood, but joined together with bigger parcels, it doesn't make too much difference that way.
I don't think you're going to get a quantitative answer on that, Councillor Cowell.
The point I was trying to make is that there exists many undersized properties. In my one area, there's 350 acre parcels. Across the street from me, there's a 75 acre parcel. There's a 30 acre parcel. So what I'm saying is that these exist. And I have another comment, but I'll save it for the final remarks opportunity.
Okay. Thank you. Continue with questions. Members' remarks, questions to the applicant, opinions? I think Deputy Mayor's comments that this is an example that this discussion has to continue. And I know the road will be very challenging ahead. From my observations, I didn't find I had an abundance of allies around the table. But when I look at this, the handwritten notes on this application that was on the presentation, I have some sympathy to the request, as the Deputy Mayor does. No house will be built on this land at all. Lands will not be taken out of production of agriculture. There will be better access obtained by the land. And Dairy Acres, I can assure you, will not be or ever be a recreational farmer. And those are comments, that I hope planning will review the video and take back to planning, because if they're it's difficult to have a one-size-fits-all when there's such a variance of topographies and situations. And this is, and I did call some farmers around the area indicating whether MDS would be involved on this. And I was told quite plainly that no, it's not. Minimum distance separation will not or ever be an issue in this particular aspect, according to the neighbors. But we can pretty well close this. The mayor always has the last comments. I let my council speak first. Out of courtesy, I'll ask once again. Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
I just have one more comment for the applicant. So I differ with the deputy mayor in some ways, in that if the county could see that this is another applicant or application that wanted this type of severance, perhaps it would sway or remind them that this is something that people are asking for. And so by having this go to the county and forcing them to deal with it, they would have to acknowledge that, this is 2 in a year time frame where folks are asking for this type of severance or something along those lines. So for me, it comes down to, I recognize that if it goes to county, it will be denied. And then fast forward to perhaps they make a decision that would allow this type of severance. This applicant would have to apply again and get the $1,800 expense of having to apply. So my question, therefore, is to the applicant. Would you prefer that we defer this till the policy changes in hopes of having the policy change, or would you like to see it pushed forward?
I guess it could be deferred.
Okay.
As far as the timeline, would you think it would be within the year?
I would think so. Yeah, Ron, we don't have a crystal ball on that, Ron, but I would think it would be in this term.
Okay.
Okay, no objections there. All right.
No.
Okay, well, at the time, is the intention of Deputy Mayor Wilkins to make a motion, and we'll call for a seconder on that, and we'll see how the vote goes to defer that, Ron. Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead. Go ahead, Martin.
Mayor Allen, I've been having a problem with my internet. I just want to say I'm in favor of the severance. If you recall, in the last year, we had a property on Irish Drive that we readjusted 2 boundaries on 2 neighboring properties. And to me, this is not much different than what occurred on Irish Drive. And I believe that happened either early this year or last year.
Okay. All right. Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
I will remind Councillor Vink that this is against county council policy. That's as plain as I can make it, Councillor Vink. Yes, we can approve it here, but it won't get approved at county council. Then you have a ratepayer that has lost $1,750. And there will be a decision made sometime this year on the review that's being conducted currently. I would much rather save Mr. Goff the $1,750 now and wait for a decision by county council.
Okay. Any further questions on this, council? Mike, I don't want to miss you. Did you have your hand up, Mike? You're okay? Okay. All righty. Amy, Mark, Doug, everyone's okay? Martin again, go ahead, Martin, a follow-up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Allen. To counter what the Deputy Mayor stated, there's a good chance that your committee, Mayor Allen, will not make any decision this year. And I think Mr. And Mrs. Goff is well aware of the ramifications. I know several members have talked to Mr. Goff, and he has sorted this all out ahead of time. So I think
that's true.
we should go ahead with severance today.
I wouldn't presume that the committee I sit on will sit idle on this, Councillor Vink. We will make a decision. At least your mayor will make sure that he will strive to put some influence in on this committee, that the decision is made before this term is over. And I think Mr. Goff has expressed his willingness to wait. And I don't want to take that away from him. He was given a choice. There was 2 methodologies here. Deputy Mayor Wilkins has suggested it be deferred. Councillor Cowell indicated that it might be best from convincing County Council to move ahead with this, to indicate the need. And Mr. Goff has had a choice of both those opinions and took the deferral. So I don't want to take that out of courtesy to Mr. Goff. I don't want to take that away from him. I just reiterate again that I am in support of this severance, whether it's deferred or not deferred. I support this severance in view of the 4 situational analysis that I look at from a practical point of view. And again, I hate to repeat myself, but one size does not fit all. And this is a very good example of why the policies have to be looked at on a per application basis. It is a stellar example of what might work. Any further remarks? I think we've gone on. Everyone's had a chance. If anyone wanted to say anything, they certainly have had the opportunity to come in. Any oral or written submissions, Jill? None? Okay. 8:17 is the time. We'll convene at 8:22. We'll have our comment recess. We'll come back in 5 minutes, 8:22. 8:22, the clock has struck committee. So we will assume our duties here. Jill, has there been any oral submissions from other participants?
No.
Okay, thank you. And at this point of the meeting, Ron, there is applicant's final remarks. Would you wish to speak again on this? Certainly.
No,
Just wait, no, go.
Yeah.
I'd just like to thank everyone for their time and consideration. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much, and we'll be in touch. The committee decision at this point, I understand the deputy mayor would like to put a motion forward.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I would move to the first, defer this until there is a decision made by the county review committee on this policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a seconder for that, Council? Councillor McGill has his hand up. Discussion? Yes, first Councillor Cowell, followed by Councillor Scholdice.
I just had one comment on this report that was a smidge disappointing, and it was from the analysis component. It talked about the issue of access to the location of misfilled drains may be considered logical from a practical perspective, and staff must evaluate both the severed and the retained parcels for conformity with the policy documents. And I just really struggled that we use both practical and logical, and then said we weren't going to do it because of a policy document. So that was my one comment in supporting this type of move forward in general, when we think something is both practical and logical, but we still don't do it because of a piece of paper and a policy that hopefully is outdated.
Okay. At this point, we remind council that Stephanie is doing her job, and she is working within the guidelines that are in front of her, and she does it well. And until those rules are changed, it's difficult. But I see your point from a practical sense of view. It does not make sense. Yes, go ahead, Krista.
And just to point out, this is not a reflection of Stephanie. This is specific to the fact that we have policies in place that don't conform to a practical or logical perspective. So that is in no way in Stephanie doing her job. It's just the fact that perhaps we need to have policies that are a smidgy bit more logical and practical.
You bet. Councillor Scholdice, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just wondering when the county committee will be meeting again, and when can Mr. Goff expect to know whether it will be decided this term at the county level?
We have just, I just went to a meeting, I believe on Monday, Michael. It's just 48 hours ago. So our next meeting will probably be called, I would think sometime in late February, early March. And I can certainly advise you of that. I may have been given the date, and I don't want to take the time to go through my calendar at this point. It's full. But I certainly will get back to you on that. And I can email you personally. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. My question is to the applicant, Mr. Goff. And Mr. Goff, I'm assuming you're still there. You can hear me?
I don't believe he is, Deputy Mayor.
No, I had a
think,
question for him.
Yeah.
Did he leave, Jill?
So no, I can promote them back as a panelist. They're present once again as a panel.
Okay, thank you. Is Mr. Goff, are you on?
Yeah, Ron, if you want to turn your microphone on, that little red thing, click that red. Good, we got you.
Yeah, I'm back on.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Stay there.
Thank you, Mr. Goff. I just have a question for you. I know you and I had talked about this application some time ago, and you did share with me some information that you got from Crispin Colvin, who I believe is the president or head of the OFA. Would you mind sharing that conversation with this committee, please?
You can ask them to repeat it
Could you repeat it again?
because the internet's unstable.
The internet's a little unstable here. I don't know if you're hearing me.
Coleman.
You did tell me that you had been in contact with Crispin Colvin, who I believe is the president of, I think it's OFA. And I just wonder if you would share that conversation that you had with this committee, with the council, please.
I talked to a few people at the OFA. I don't remember the one you're talking about.
And what was their, can you recall any of their conversation, Ron?
They were not against it. Any of them were not against it, but as far as giving me written something in writing or to that, they would not do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Okay. And
Yeah.
thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, we have gone through that. We have a mover and a seconder to defer this application pending the County Council's review and implementation of any changes that would be coming forth, and we'll certainly will apprise council of that. I'll call the question. All in favor of deferring the application? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Ron, very much. Catherine, thank you for being by his side there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Future meetings, there's 11 future meetings before you, council, and you can put those in your calendar. It is time to adjourn at 8:29, and we'll resume our regular council meeting. Yes, Stephanie, go ahead.
Before we adjourn committee, I had an opportunity to review the minutes, the question that Councillor Cowell had in regards to the decision for the minor variance application. So I can clarify that now if you wish.
Yes, go ahead.
So the report, my planning recommendation was that the application be granted, but the condition was that the structure be no taller than the existing dwelling. And committee made a decision to amend that to a maximum height of 6 meters or 19.4 feet. And that was the building height that the applicant proposed in their drawings submitted with their application.
Okay, yeah. Good. I recall the conversation too. I think it had something to do with the warranty on the steel roof as well. It had to have a certain pitch, and in order to maintain its warranty status with the supplier. Councillor Cal, go ahead.
With that in mind, if it's all right, can we move to accept those minutes, or do we have to wait because we deferred?
Jill, give some clarification on that and we'll move on. Yeah, what would make Stephanie's life easier and yours?
The motion was just to defer, so if you defer them to the end of the meeting, that's fine.
Okay, how's that? We'll bring it back up.
So then I would move to accept the meeting minutes.
All right. The chair will adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 8:31.
Oh, Mayor, sorry, I think Councillor Cowell was indicating she would move them at this point.
Okay, at this point? Okay, all right, go ahead. Moved to accept the minutes as presented and as Stephanie has indicated, a seconder. Councillor Vink, thank you. All in favor? Carried. My clock still says 8:31. Adjourned.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Steph. Thanks very much. Jill, thank you for your magic on the screen there. And we will be at number 8, staff reports. And I will call these as I see them. Jill, if I'm in error there, just bring it to my attention. 8A, fire. I have nothing down for this evening.
I think Colin was going to give a quick verbal update if he wishes. He just something came to his attention and he wanted to bring it forward for consideration.
Colin will never say no to you, Chief Sewell. So you've got the floor.
I promise I won't be long-winded. I know we have a busy meeting tonight. So An opportunity has came to my attention in regards to the rescue truck that council approved for myself to move forward on with an RFQ in the next month or so. An opportunity has came on Gov Deals in regards to a rescue truck that's became available, and I'm looking for council's direction in regards to, I would like to stay within the budget that I've been allocated. However, I would like the opportunity to at least bid on the rescue truck, and the bid is actually on Monday coming up, and I've reached out to a lot of my counterparts, and we've been talking about it. It came through another municipality to my attention, so they're unable to proceed with it, and it looks like it would fit into our specifications. Also, in this world we live in, it's tough to be nimble and not at least afford the opportunity to pursue this. There's no guarantee, but at the end of the day, the vehicle is a 2018 rescue truck, and it will have warranty still available on it. And I haven't been in contact with the chief personally, but an individual that I know has talked to him, and we're very forward with all the information in the package. So I won't take up council's time tonight, but it is an important decision, and I want to make sure that I'm transparent and would like to bring it to council's attention and get some advice and recommendations on the next moves.
Okay, thank you.
Council.
And Chief Sewell, just to put this in perspective, if council does give you approval to proceed, this will come back to council for a final decision. Is that correct? Or is it in the, if it's in the budget, it's it'll be done, eh? Okay.
I would work within the budget, Mr. Mayor, and I would update council, and I will update obviously the CAO as this would transpire. We will know Monday night whether it was successful or not. So
Okay,
the timeframes are very tight.
Yeah, well, we know the issues of the supply chain problem, and we appreciate you bringing this to us. Councillor McGill.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through the mayor to Chief Sewell. If we make a motion and approve you bidding at this auction, do you intend to go and look at this truck?
The truck is in Ohio, and so at this point we've been in conversation, and we're going to be we've reached out with some mechanics that I know, and we've looked at the video, and we've looked at the truck, and it appears to be all in order, and it has 3,200 miles on it. So a 2018 with 3,200 miles on it, it's relatively in excellent shape. And they've produced all the invoices and the bills as well for any type of work.
And Chief Sewell, Councillor Cowell has a Councillor McGill has a follow-up question, and then we'll go to Councillor Cowell.
Yeah, and what is the reason for sale?
In their municipality, they've had a prior chief. They definitely have a different setup than our fire services in Ontario. And it's been deemed surplus.
Okay. All right, Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
My question was why they were selling it. I always ask that question.
All right.
Councillor Cowell, and to all of council, that was our biggest question too. So we've definitely had a fulsome conversation on why this is being sold.
Okay. Council. You've heard the request. Councillor McGill, go ahead.
I guess I'll move that we allow Chief Sewell to bid on this truck as long as he stays within our already approved budget.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask for a seconder for that. Councillor Vink, thank you. Discussion, any more? Yes, Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this unique opportunity. Sometimes auctions don't go the way you want, but sometimes you can get one heck of a bargain. So I'll be interested to see what happens and if we can see any savings, and we'll watch for that tricky American dollar.
Yes, Councillor Cal, I've looked at it. It's around $1.29, and it is a unique opportunity. And I am always fiscally responsible, and we definitely want to make sure that it fits our needs moving into the future. And if we're unsuccessful with this, we'll go down the current RFQ process, and it looks to be about a 2-year wait to see a new truck delivered. But we're in good shape. Our rescue truck is still running. The age is ticking up, but it'll be around a 2-year wait from numerous vendors.
Okay. Last call for questions. Mike, I think you were just scratching your ear there. I don't think it was a question. So I'm going to call, it's been moved and seconded by Councillor Vink, moved by Councillor McGill. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Colin, you've got a full endorsement of council. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Have a good evening, and that'll be it for fire tonight.
Good. We continue down to 8B, administration. Jill, if you could walk us through and familiarize us with this agreement regarding ATEL Communications.
Yep, certainly, Your Worship. The report is recommending that you approve 2 agreements, the access and road use agreement for ATEL to use our roads in order to expand their internet fiber project within the area, and a lease of a small portion of our property, call it a POP agreement, near the Melbourne Water Tower, so that they can establish a little building there that allows them to connect, have their appropriate works underway. And it's been reviewed by us, it's been reviewed by Aqua, and the agreement that is municipal access agreement was drafted by the county for our use, and the POP agreement also reviewed by staff and meets our needs with some revenue coming in as a result of the lease. And just wanted to confirm we have received the security for the access and road use agreement, as well the subcontractor that was working for ATEL, where there had been the rupture of our water line in the county road, has been paid to the municipality for all of the full cost associated with the repair for those works. So we're recommending approval of those agreements through bylaws in the bylaws section.
Great, thank you very much. Council, you've heard the story. Any questions you'd like to pose to Jill? Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Mayor Mayhew, I'll move the recommendation.
And a seconder for that, please. Councillor Bartlett. Call for questions again. Seeing none, all in favor that staff proceed with the agreement? Carried unanimously. Jill or Greg, on report number 2, you certainly, both of you, we want to add to this. Go ahead regarding John Street local improvement tender results.
Would you like me to start that?
Yes, if you would, Jill, please. And Greg can come in. I'll watch you, Greg, for any comment. Just raise your hand.
Okay, the John Street local improvement tender was put on the market, and we have received a recommendation for the project in the amount of $335,713.50, excluding HST, and we're recommending that it be awarded to Archon Excavating as per the recommendation from Spirit and Associate, who is designed the work for this road improvement that is then put onto the benefiting property owners. So this is the local improvement charges regulation under the Municipal Act. Council's been stepping through this process, and this is an additional step along the way.
Jill, that's a good news story. Yes, Greg, anything to add there?
No, I think Joel covered that off perfect. So.
Okay, and all right, Council, any questions that you have? Yes, Councillor Cal, go ahead.
I know that the tender to do the work came in a little bit less than what was expected, or at least that's what the engineers said, that the engineer's estimate had been 344,000. But their cost will still be at close to the 440,000. Is that correct? Because there's still the engineering that was done, and that other cost didn't include HST. Right? Please confirm that for me. I feel like it's about $10,000 math, but I know that there will be engineering costs, and I'm wondering if there's anything else that, like, I didn't want them to be like, oh my gosh, we're saving $100,000, because I think they're maybe saving 10.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, there's administration costs that are also included in the total project that are outside of the bid here, legal costs as well. And so all of the cost associated with the entire development is then put through the local improvement and charge that the treasurer will put out on those properties as per the reg. So these are not the only costs, but this is absolutely the majority of the cost.
Okay. All right. Any further questions, Council? The option one, we are considering, Jill, we are going to consider that those tender results came within the threshold, and there's no argument in that. We'll continue to assume that despite the ancillary costs. What's council's wish on that? Would they like to proceed with the John Street development to accommodate these property owners? What's your wish, council? Councillor Kyle, I see your hand up.
I'll move that recommendation, but I also have a question afterwards, please.
All right, that's moved. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor McGill. Question, Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to either Jill or Greg. I know that these property owners have been hoping that this work would get started. Do we know of the timeline for that?
Yeah, that was in the tender document that went to the market, Greg, and I believe that the expectation is work would commence this spring.
Okay, that's great. Okay, I know there has been inquiries on when it would start, and it'll be nice to be able to inform those people that we are finally moving on that. Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. How many lots were involved with this?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think there was about 10, 8 to 10.
8 lots that were in the current proposal.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But then there was some changes that were made as a result of applications for planning matters.
Yeah.
So some tiny adjustment to the design there.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We'll call the question. All in favor of the community improvement going ahead? Carried. Thank you, Council. This John Street's been a conversation for almost 2 decades, so it's very nice to see some activity on that. As you know, the history of that, those lots were very checkerboarded at one time in history to work around certain planning matters, and it didn't speed up the operation. It took 2 decades to finally get it resolved, but I think we did tonight. Arnie, it's good to see you there. Your smiling face, you're muted there, so you better click your microphone off. We've got a quarterly building report, and it's your turn if you'd like to proceed, Arnie.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Good evening, council, and through the mayor, I am here tonight to present to you the year-end report for Southwest Middlesex Building, and which also includes the fourth quarter statistics as well. It's a 3-page report that you have before you. As I scroll through it, staff, initially I outlined our 5 municipality agreement with Middlesex Center and Southwest Middlesex and others, as well as outlining some of the statistics that we have with the 5 municipalities that are part of that agreement. What we found with Southwest Middlesex, I find this to be a typical year, no surprises, which is good. We had 16 new dwelling units. As you scroll through the 3rd page, you can see the comparison of the 16 dwelling units to a typical year of 20 to 17. It's a pretty standard year, I think. Good news, fees generated have been enough to cover the expense of the building services agreement. And I think we have a very strong outlook for what we're going to see in 2022 with some developments that are coming. I suspect that this year will be busier than last. So I think it's generally no surprises and good news report.
Okay. Thank you. You're still with us, Ernie?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. I just you just cut off so fast there. I wondered if you froze up on me there, but no, that's great. It's good news, and we like to hear that. Council, are there any questions to Arnie you wish to address through the chair? I would like the report noted to be received for information. May I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Bartlett, Councillor Choi, that the quarterly billing report by Mr. Mearson be received. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Arnie, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate seeing you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Council.
Be safe. (8D) carries us into finance. Kristen, would you like to kick this off, please?
I sure would. This is a task or a report I bring to council each year once the previous year's cost of living has been finalized through StatsCan. I use the same website every year, the Ontario December over December total goods cost of living. So right now that's sitting at 5.2%. Not right now, that's what it's set for 2021. Traditionally, we follow cost of living increases. That's what I propose each year for non-union, volunteer fire, and part-time salary grids. The union salary grid is negotiated in each contract, and the council salary remuneration is spelled out in your remuneration bylaw. So council will get the 5.2%. I'm just looking for direction on what we do for the rest of the staff, excluding the union staff.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. Council, I'm sure there may be some questions on that. You can address through the chair to Kristen. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Cowell, please go ahead.
If you could you remind us what the union received?
Jill, am I allowed to?
Yeah, the union agreement is established by bylaw in public. The negotiation, the final presentation of it is in closed session, but when it's adopted, it's a public document.
All right, then I can pull it up. They, this past year, received 1.75, and each of the last 4 years was right around in there. So they get a predetermined rate each year. Last year, the fire and non-union got 0.7. I'm just looking for the contract here, and I can tell you what they had for negotiated for each of the 4 years. sorry. Okay, so for October 2019, it was 2% for 2019, 1.75 for 2020, 1.5 for 2021.
Okay. Council, any further discussion you'd like to have with Kristen on this? Any questions? Any comments? Yes, Kristen, Krista Cowell again. Go ahead, Councillor Cowell.
I'd like to see what other municipalities have decided to do with their non-unionized people a little bit more, because I understand that not every municipal employee in the county is getting a 5.2% increase. So for me, I'd like more information before I made this decision, because that's a huge increase potentially. So that's where my mind is at with this.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I may come back to you on that, Councillor Cowell. Any further discussion? Councillor Cowell, the chair respectfully ask you if you'd make that a motion.
I'd make, and I'm not saying like we wouldn't like retro pay. I don't have a problem with that. But I would like to have a report come back on what the other municipalities are considering. I know it doesn't give you a lot of time, but if you do and can find this information, I'd like a report back to see what other municipalities are doing in the in the county, so we have a better comparison as to what everybody's doing with this huge 5% increase, because it does create a disparity as well between our unionized employees as well. So I would make the motion that the staff come back with a report for a comparison of increases, please.
Okay, and Martin, you'll second that? Thank you, Martin. I've got you. It's recorded. Council, I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, carried. We are on 8E. Greg, we're under operations now. Thank you for your patience sitting there all night, and I'll let you commence with item number 1 under 8E, Greg.
Yeah, and through you, Mayor Allen, is that the landfill report?
Cornerstone will consider that done. Yes, number 2 would be Trillium Drive recommendation. Yes.
All right, and thank you. And through you, Mayor Allen, I would like to start things off. I think Jill has some general comments to start us off, and then I will present my report.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. I just remind council, I know that this is a very sensitive issue. We know that this has been a dialogue that's gone on for a very long time, and we certainly want every courtesy extended to each other on this. And we look forward to discussion. And we'll, with that in mind, Jill, you lead us into this subject.
Sure. So I appreciate that, Mayor Mayhew. And as some of you, well, all of you will know that we had a delegation recently with the Minister of the Environment, but not all of you were able to attend the Roma conference in order to participate in the delegation. So I'll kind of provide a little bit of a history, and we touched on this during our delegation to the minister as well, because they're very big partners with us in moving ahead, and will be interested in the decisions that get made and how they can support us in now and in the future to move towards common goals. So as you know, the closure plan was already submitted for the Limerick landfill site and approved, and we have a date upon which that landfill will be closed, and the work that needs to happen on that site is that really we need to undertake the closure works, and then we keep on with the monitoring program and continue with post-closure inspections and maintenance at that particular site. for the Trillium Landfill. That landfill had a presentation from Golder Associates and a report from staff on that as well as update reports on it. And I thought it was a very excellent presentation we had from Golder, giving us the background, but the status of where we are and what was submitted. So just a quick recap on that. That landfill site has been in operation for several decades. There's 4.5 hectares of waste fill area at the site, but it's a 49 hectare site in total. It's surrounded by ag lands and very close to the New Biggin Creek. We know now from that presentation that we had from Golder that the MECP requirements for new and expanding landfills is a 100-meter buffer, or not less than 30 meters if it can be demonstrated that there's not impact on adjacent properties. And the distance that the existing waste is on that particular property is 6 meters from the property line to the east and 40 meters to the west. So we've got some challenges, and Greg will talk a little bit about that again, but you did hear about some of the issues with respect to exceedances. So that's part of the report here tonight as well. The site is currently a temporary transfer site, and we do take yard waste and composting there, as well as large items that can't go in the curbside program. And I think that's been, Greg can touch on that as well, but in my opinion, that's been going very well and a very beneficial service to the community. The MECP approved that ECA for the Trillium Landfill, and that's what Council had an update on. It was approved at the end of September of last year. And the information that we heard from Golder was about the remedial action plan, how we really need to prep and get ready and present something to the ministry to ensure that they understand what the exceedances are about, how we're going to try to fix it. And we've got options in doing so, a range of options, really from purchasing water rights to purchasing land to an engineered barrier, and certainly a large cost differential with each of those options. Within our presentation of the ministry, we really did hit on the financial context for Southwest Middlesex as well. So we've got reserved funds for the landfill closure, and we do continue to put aside funds to assist with the closure costs, but the estimates that we have exceed those previous estimates. We don't have a large population base, and it's difficult to raise a lot of money on a tax increase when 1% only raises a little under or around $100,000 a year. As well, we're losing other types of unconditional grants from the province. So we raised that issue for the ministry and said this is a challenge for a small municipality like us. And we also noted some challenges with respect to the fact that we do not have environmental liability insurance for that particular site for pre-existing conditions. So we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can moving forward to ensure that the issues that we are now aware of can be remedied as best that they can and to the satisfaction of the ministry and to ensure environmental safety. So we did ask whether or not there was an opportunity for the ministry to consider assisting with any kind of funding for the municipality to support us in moving this along. And I think we had that was well received from staff's perspective and MECP staff as well. Something for them to consider. There is not an existing program, but I would say I would not expect that to be any kind of funding associated with ongoing operations. It would be for closure costs. So it was a good meeting, in my opinion, and we provided a good summary of the issues and how we're trying to move forward with our partners. But we also know there's a decision that council has to make here tonight, and it's about a community service. And it's also about the financial context. I think Kristen is going to speak a little bit about the insurance question that she posed to our broker recently, but I'll turn it over to Greg to give his report. Thank you.
Okay, everybody can hear me all right now?
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. Thank you.
All right, and thank you. And through you, Mary Ellen, to council. The first thing I will touch on is the transfer station, because, you know, the transfer station is not part of the decision that's being made tonight, but it is indirectly a service that that is offered at the site. As Jill had mentioned, we are now operating under a temporary permit from MECP with regards to that operation. The decision tonight with regards to the options itself will not affect that moving forward. Certainly if it's decided in the future that, you know, depending on the options that's picked, that the council wishes to proceed with a permanent transfer station, that is totally possible moving forward. I will say that that particular operation over there has been excellent for the residents. And if I had any suggestions with regards to the station itself, if we were to run with a permanent station in the future, it would be to have a look at that operational schedule so that we could pare it back to meet the actual need that's happening there. So, and that would just be at times where we have very little use through January, February, etc., and make it more efficient operation. The second thing I want to talk about is really sort of the question of whether other municipalities are partners within the county or close to us, you know, would be interested in the operation of a landfill site as a partner. We posed that question to our neighbors and we received no interest. The same thing, we posed similar questions to our main large operator, and they had no interest in either buying the site or proceeding with operating the site itself. Jill had mentioned a little bit about exceedances that I will touch on those briefly, and council is aware that both at Limerick and in Trillium that we do have monitoring wells in place. Those particular monitoring wells were originally presented to MECP with regards to their locations. Jill and I both sat through those sessions with the consultant and MECP. And between the two groups, you know, some changes were made, but MECP agreed for the location and where these particular wells were put just based on the waste limit. So the original installation was done of those particular wells. The situation at Limerick is pretty straightforward. We have a full closing that will happen at Limerick, and that is to be done by June 1st of 2025. In Limerick's case with the monitoring results, they were all within the parameters, the acceptable parameters within the ECA. And that's why we got a little bit of relief there to extend that period moving forward as far as a full closure is concerned. At the Trillium Drive site, our results are producing very high exceedances in 6 different parameters. And this has happened to us a couple times since the new ECA has been brought in. And as part of the ECA, the municipality is going to have to address these particular exceedances. And this information was presented to council by Golder at the meeting on December 8th. Mr. Ghanem as well at that particular meeting did explain to council at that time that these high levels will be present in these samples for some time. You know, and the you know, that could be anywhere from 10 to 20 years where these results without further landfilling will you know, will get back within the minimum requirements in the legislation. So that's one of the points that he did make. He also pointed out the particular options associated with the exceedances and what our options were, and Jill spoke to them. The 3 particular options are the purchase of water rights, land rights, and if those are not possible, an installation of an engineered barrier. Now you will see in the costing later on that there's a range. And that particular range is reflective simply just if options 1 and 2 were not available to address the exceedances, then the third, which was the installation of the engineered barrier, would have to be applied. Thus, the cost goes way up. And since we've had the presentation, we've had a meeting with Golder, and we have had MECP request 2 additional wells to the south of the southern portion of the property. And we've also, with our meeting with Golder, have decided that to the north that we need 2 more wells to determine whether the setback is attainable. And if it is, then we would not have to negotiate for that particular part, part of the landfill site itself. I have put the costs in there with regards to the 4 wells that need to be installed, and we will be moving forward with those in the near future. I will talk just a little bit now about interim closure versus full closure. No matter what the options are, options 1 or 2, both require an interim closure by October 31st of 2024. An interim closure is pretty straightforward. It's to cover the site. It's to rework the site, rework the waste limit, and cover the site with 1 foot of soil. So when we talk about an interim closure, that's basically what it is. They're the regrade to attain the proper slopes, etc., for the site based on approvals from MECP. That will all have to be reworked, and then there would be 1 foot of cover applied for an interim cover. For a full closure or final closure, it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is that the final cover is 2 feet. Now, if you picked an interim closure, you obviously are going to have to do this twice, which is then going to cost that extra bit of money that you see in the financials for this project. So that's really the only difference. The difference is the actual thickness of the cover. Pretty much the regrading, the waste movement, and the regrading of the site itself would be part of both. But interim closure and full closures, the difference is that if you're going to do a full closure, you do everything right at the beginning. If you do an interim closure, that means you're going to have to go back and assume not just the extra cost of 1 more foot of topsoil, or of proper soil to be on as cover, but also you're going to be paying for the equipment to be in the site the second time. So I will now just speak a little bit about the options associated with that are in the report. These particular options weren't anything that were created by the consultant or the ministry. I mean, this particular municipality had asked the ministry if it was possible to have a full closure plan or an interim closure plan, or at some later date, we called it at that point mothballing, which was virtually an interim closure, and to step into full operations in the future. Options 1 and 2, because there is a requirement to have an interim closure by October of 2024, is part of the first 2 options, because option 1 was to operate the facility as a design and operations facility, but that requires the interim closure. It also requires a full insurance coverage, and that would include environmental liability insurance, which certainly Kristen can speak to. We do have an answer on that one, whether that would be available in the future. My only comment about that would be that, when the insurance was removed for pre-existing conditions, that now those conditions are highlighted by our monitoring program that's in place. So there is doubt that we would have full insurance coverage moving forward in the future. Condition 3.4, to reopen the landfill, only if we would still need to submit our design and operations report, and that in which they've already approved, but it must go back again after we would meet the requirements of the ECA, so that the confirmation that the site was in compliance with water standards and confirmation the stormwater water pond is approved and constructed, and then we would have to provide a full plan to them on how we plan to operate the facility. I talk a little bit about the costs associated with that. So the remedial exceedance cost and the temporary closure, the interim closure, this is where you get this 1.1 million to 1.9 million, because it will depend on how successful we are in dealing with these exceedances based on the options listed above. The construction cost for the design of the operations plan to operate it as a landfill site would cost us about $1.1 million to build. And it does not include a leachate management plan. When it comes to the operation of the landfill site moving forward, the low number that we have is about $2 million just to get it started and to get it up. And then you would be built into whatever the operational costs would be to operate this facility moving forward. So basically, we would be looking at savings if we were going to do this, savings of $70,000 a year, which is where we now send our garbage to the Twin Creeks landfill site in Watford, and we pay tipping fees associated with getting rid of that garbage. That number we could save because that garbage would then go into our landfill. Long-term monitoring will continue for 25 years or so with regards to these landfills, whether we have them fully closed or not. Option 2 is basically, it's almost identical to option 1 because it was an interim closure. So an interim closure is tied to a design and operations plan in the ECA. So again, we would need to, if we're going to interim close, we're going to have to deal with these exceedances, and we're going to have to close the landfill site by October, interim close it by October 31st, 2024. That again is pinned to actually opening it as a design and operations facility in the future. So all those design and operations costs would apply as well. And including, you would still, even with this option, you know, if we were open again in the future, of course, we would save these $70,000 in tipping fees. Excuse me. Option 3 is a permanent closure of the facility. So for me, these cost estimates do include the dealing with the exceedances, the remedial action to address exceedances, plus the permanent closure of the site, which means that the site would be closed and there would be no opening of this site in the future as an operating landfill site. You know, in this particular option, there would be efficiencies as far as the closure, because we are currently going to be going through the same thing for Limerick. So obviously there would be efficiencies if we tendered both of these particular facilities together. And long-term monitoring will continue here as well. In my closing remarks, well, actually, I'm just going to take us down just to do a quick view of the financials. And if we go down to option 1, which is the design, implementation, operations, that again includes an interim closure. We can't go around that. That is in the ECA and it must be done. And that cost is anywhere from 4.2 to 5 million. I will say that we're probably on the low side of this because, like I said, there's no leachate management plan involved in this. And, you know, we tried to stay conservative with these costs, but there are still a whole slew of unknowns associated with this, you know, that would unfold if this was to open for design and operations. The interim closure it's identical simply because the interim closure is tied to a design and operations in the ECA, which would produce the same numbers itself. Our final closure numbers are 1.6 million to 2.4 million. If council picked this, they would move ahead and final close this landfill site. And there would be no design and operations costs moving forward. And really it ends up being the most efficient way to spend taxpayers' money in this particular situation. So I will close, Mayor Allen, and through you to council, just to point out a few things that are extremely important in this decision tonight and for using, you know, and being efficient with the taxpayers' money in Southwest Middlesex. The first one is that the environmental liability insurance is an issue. It's an issue not in the short term and in the long term. So to expect that we're all of a sudden going to be operating without insurance, that isn't going to happen. So it's just a consideration that council needs to remember when we move through this. The second part of this is these monitoring results that we do have now are producing exceedances. And we have heard from experts in the market as well as from our consultant that these particular results are not going away in the short term. The financials, when we look at the financials associated with this, it's pretty clear that to staff and sort of supplements our recommendation that the most efficient way to spend this money would be for a full closure of this landfill site. The efficiencies that we would get for both will save us money. And, there are still unknowns associated with the design and operations and whether a small municipality can operate this type of facility now under this existing ECA, which would require a whole different way that we would operate it than was operated in the past. And my last point is that, we just went through a budget process here where we had a very challenging budget. I don't know how many meetings we were at, 5 or 6 meetings. Council did an outstanding job of bringing this all together, and Kristen, but it was very challenging. We saw some of those challenges that were in front of us moving forward in the future. And, when I think about, this type of money going in the ground, it bothers me. I look after, facilities and rec department and public works department, and where, this type of money just going into the ground is nothing that people can see. Our taxpayers can't see this, but they will be able to see, community centers and fire halls and, libraries and stuff with money like that make a difference in the community. We are in a real challenging situation with this landfill. It's been a long time. And, that's why my recommendation is to fully close this landfill so that we stop spending money. We have a beautiful and full curbside program. We would move forward with a permanent transfer station. And, hopefully, the money we save by not opening and this as a landfill operation, we could then see these new things in our community, and the taxpayers could see new community centers and, things that are material, things that we can use. So I appreciate this opportunity tonight to present this report, Alan, but my recommendation is pretty straightforward, that we would be recommending option 3 to close the landfill site and move forward with the plans for both Trillium and Limerick. And I thank you for this opportunity. He's on mute.
I was just wondering, I don't want to leave Kristen out of this talk. Kristen, obviously you've sat down with the administration on this and have done some of the math on this. Anything further you'd like to say?
Thank you. I did reach out to our insurer to ask what we'd be looking at in either cases. But basically what it boils down to is that we wouldn't have any third-party environmental liability insurance until the Ministry of the Environment is satisfied that there is no more pollution occurring, is how he worded it. So that's just something for council to keep in mind, that we'd still be looking at likely a significant amount of time until we'd have some third-party coverage.
Okay, thank you. That was the information I was wondering about. Okay, Council, you've heard from your administration. We'll, as I remind you, we'll entertain all questions, have some discussion on this. I'm sure there will be questions, and we'll address them through the chair and in a courteous manner, and we'll move forward from that. Deputy Mayor, you lead us off.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew. So my question is to Greg. So Greg, option 1 and option 2, you state that does not include a leachate management plan. That would be an added cost on those 2 options, I'm assuming. Do you know what that cost would be approximately?
Yeah, and through you, Mayor Allen, to the Deputy Mayor, there are still a little bit unknowns because that particular leachate management plan would have to be approved by MECP. So I have a range. The range, would be anywhere from $1.6 million to $2 million for just that plan itself.
Okay, thank you very much. That's my only question right now, Mayor Mayhew.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking for hands, Council. We'll call it again. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Choi, go ahead. Through the chair, and who would you like it directed to?
Thank you, Mayor. To Jill, please. And just to clarify, you said The possible funding from ministry would be only to close for a full closure.
You, Mayor Mayhew? So, yeah, if there was a funding opportunity for them to consider, I think it would be only to help us put this as a final closure for this particular landfill or both landfills. So there was some consideration of this. They asked some questions about, wondering whether or not in the past there'd ever been a discussion around having the landfills locally at an upper tier level, which really they're not. They are in some counties, but not here. So the only real option that I think if the ministry or other ministries were to consider this would not be for operations and future operations.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Thank you, Councillor Choi. Further questions, Council? Yes, Councillor Bartlett, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. It's more of a comment rather than a question. My question was going to be about the keeping the transfer station, but Greg kind of covered that. I think it's very important that we do keep it. I've talked to people both on the street and when I've been at the landfill, and they seem to be quite happy with that situation. So as long as we can keep that, I would be actually happy with option 3. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Council, we could talk about this all night. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Al. I had a discussion with Jill this afternoon in regards to this landfill site. I would like to make an amendment to option number 3. I would like to have a requirement that we have a permanent transfer station there before we agree to final closure. This way, we are protecting our ratepayers to have something there.
Okay, I think in the report that was stated, but the vocabulary in the could be worked on. Martin, if that's a condition of supporting final closure, I think we might be able to work some language around that. I'm sure administration would help us. Thank you for those comments. Anybody else? Yes, Greg.
Yeah, and I through your Mayor, I think Joe could probably help out here a little bit too, but the ECA itself doesn't deal with the transfer station. So, I mean, the decision tonight would be based on, the closure of, or whatever options picked for Trillium. Even a permanent transfer station would not be located in the same area. It would be located to the west of the facility right now where we are, because that particular spot that we have the transfer station right now would be part of the full closure. So, I think that, like we want the transfer station to continue in a permanent way. So, and I think that that's discussions we need to have with MECP. If that, the recommendation could be worded so that it doesn't affect the ECA and the decision tonight of council to pick one of those options. It could be simple as, staff pursuing the permanent transfer station and reporting back to council. I don't think one's contingent on the other, and MECP is not going to see it that way. They're only going to see it in response to what they have said we need to do in that ECA, and that doesn't include the transfer station.
And Greg, just to inquire about your comments that is located west, those are lands that we currently own. That's the Dr. Calm farm that municipality bought quite few years ago.
You're correct.
Yep. All right. Any further questions? Okay. I'm surprised there isn't more questions on this. I thought there would. Deputy Mayor, I'd like to speak to this as head of council. I feel I should. Would take the gavel from me, please.
Yes, absolutely. I'll do that, Mayor Mayhew. Mayor Mayhew, you have a question or a comment?
Three things I'd like to bring to council's attention, and staff. Your presentation covered was very thorough and covered much of this. I think the question, how does council want to spend the taxpayers' dollar? Do you want it spent on landfills, or do you want it on new infrastructure? We mentioned fire halls in possibly in Wardsville, rejuvenation of the Eckford Community Center, well-maintained old train station, better roads, sanitary systems, and sidewalks. I think that is a part of the thought process here. In addition, I do not believe that when someone buys a house in Appin, in Wardsville, in Glencoe, Middlesex, or Melbourne, they base their decision on whether we have a landfill when they make that choice of buying a home. When a farm changes hands, or when light industry comes in to our municipality, I doubt very much, and I speak from 17 years in the real estate business, that that question was never asked to me when I was an agent for several companies, 3 or 4 companies, and that question never came forth. Do you have a landfill? They ask if you have schools. What are your schools and your churches, and what's your business section like? What are your recreation facilities like? But no one in my 17 years has asked whether we have a landfill. So it's not critical to foster an expansionary position. And I think Kristen has answered my concern was also on environmental liability insurance, and that has been answered very professionally by Kristen. I did not know that she reached out today to make that inquiry, but it was on my mind. And I think we all know the way the insurance industry is going. They are not as accommodating perhaps as they used to be on environmental insurance. And those are certainly questions that when we vote on this in a few minutes, that I think bear some substance in our decision-making process. And I would be amiss not to expound my own feelings on this.
So Mayor Mayhew, I think what you're saying is you'd rather see the money, the taxpayers' money, spent above the dirt than in the dirt.
That's, I think it was well articulated. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And
you're
Greg,
welcome.
Yeah, I think Greg has his hand up, Deputy Mayor.
I mean, just quickly through you, Deputy Mayor.
Go ahead, Greg.
The council, I don't think Councillor Vink's motion is out of line. I do think there's room for that within this. I just, all I was saying was that we need to make sure that we're not, making one contingent on the other, because they're not going to see it that way. But Jill could probably help us out here with this.
And
Mayor Mayhew, I'm going to hand, if you're done, I'm going to hand the gavel back to you.
Yeah, I just have one question. I think I'd feel more comfortable if you had the gavel. Deputy
Okay,
Mayor.
I can do that, and I'll let Jill finish off, and then I'll get back to you. If that's
just
okay.
In relationship to Deputy Mayor, thank you, Greg, for mentioning that in reference to Martin's concern. I think we could probably deal with this question, and if Martin wanted to make that a separate motion after this is done, it would be cleaner probably, and it wouldn't impede any of the decisions that we forward to the ministry on that. And that decision can always come forward later, and I'm sure council would entertain his consideration. Deputy Mayor, I'm done.
Yep, there you go, Mayor Mayhew.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor, thank you for taking that. Council, as chair and head of council, I'll ask one more time. Are there any further questions to staff? Yes, Councillor Scholdice, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I think it's important to remember that our waste collection contract has jumped from $249,000 the year prior to closure to this year's budgeted amount of $450,000. We are also presently paying a private business tipping fees that could increase drastically at any moment. Instead, we could have an interim closure allowing operations at a later date with environmental concerns already being addressed. It's worth noting that London's W12 landfill is nearing capacity. Waste Management was the only bidder on our 7-year contract. We have placed ourselves at their mercy if we permanently close this site. We have sought input from the community on every matter from chickens to recreation programs. And I personally would like to see what the public thinks about this issue.
Okay. I can certainly bring that towards council. The chair is going to comment on that. The public have elected us to make those decisions for us. We've had the information from the engineers. This has been a conversation that has gone on for a very, very long time. We have an environmental liability to make the right decisions and to show that our intentions are solid and good. Looking at that 2022 operating budget, we had in there waste management, recycling collection, 500,000. It was Kristen that's put in there everything from general supplies to right down to property taxes, the tipping fees, transfer stations. I think if you are putting forth a numerical argument, Councillor Scholdice, I think I'd feel more comfortable if I handed it over to Treasurer McGill. And Kristen, do you have any comment on that?
Thank you. I don't think, now Greg could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that our collection fees have any bearing on whether or not we have a landfill or a transfer station. A big portion of the change in fees was switching from Terra to waste management and to a bin system, like a completely redesigned way of collection and a brand new company. But Greg can correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, through you, Mary Ellen. No, I think you're correct, Kristen. I think it's difficult. I think the number that Councillor Scholdice has thrown out is a number from 2017, and I think the environment has changed completely since then. The other thing to consider is that, we always talk about expenses. We don't talk about growth. And certainly, even my time here since we've made the change to the curbside program, and most people I talk to love that curbside program. Those particular changes that have been made, the environment looks totally different right now. So it's not the same, and it's really not. And other than the tipping fees that were related in the report, there's nothing that's hard to make that comparison with the decision tonight. So,
okay, Councillor McGill, followed by Councillor Cowell. Unmute, Mark.
Yep. I'm using a different computer. I'm not using my iPad, and I keep forgetting that my computer isn't a touch screen. So that was the delay. If the chair will allow it, I would like to move that we make the transfer station permanent. I'd like that motion to go ahead of this recommendation, and that way that might help. Well, I think it should be permanent anyway. And I think if that will help Martin make his decision on supporting this recommendation, I'd like that motion to go first.
I think that would be courteous to Martin. The chair approves of that. The only thing I asked is I would just like Jill to help us with the language a little bit, Jill, because what would accommodate MECP, and what do you need in that motion that council endorses that administration go ahead and begin the process of making a permanent transfer station? Can it be as simplified as Councillor McGill has, or how would you word that yourself?
So I think I would keep it fairly simple, that staff be directed to initiate the development of a permanent transfer station at the Trillium Drive site.
Okay, that is Mark. Can you live with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that if somebody could second it. And then I'd like to get a recorded vote on that too.
Okay, Martin, would you be kind enough to second that? Martin's frozen up. Anyway, I wanted to give Martin the courtesy of that if he was considering supporting.
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay, that's great, Martin. You were a little delayed there. Thank you. Okay, so it has been moved by McGill, seconded by Vink. In the language as Jill has expressed. And any questions to the chair? Yep, two questions. Councillor Cowell, go first, followed by Councillor Scholdice.
This motion does not necessarily impact the other motions. Is that correct? So if we were like, hey, we're going to open this landfill tomorrow, we would still have a permanent, I'm not saying that's what I'm in favor of, and I'm not saying if we closed it tomorrow, we would still have a permanent transfer station no matter what, right?
I think the odds of that happening would be slim, but it would have to come back to council. Councillor McGill, I'm sorry, Mark, if you could just delay your question. Out of courtesy, Councillor Scholdice was the second one that had his hands up, you being the third. So go ahead, Councillor Scholdice.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Given that the engineer from Golder and Associates has explained the problems that the compost pile is creating at this site, what is our plans for future composting?
That is a problem. The problem is solved by using it. And secondly, we're going to have a report come back to council from staff. And I know that this will be part of that report. If Greg or Jill would like to speak to that, but I'm sure that will be an appendix of your report and a solution how to move forward. But would staff like to comment on Councillor Scholdice's concern?
Well, I can, go ahead, Jill.
Oh, so I was just going to say, I know you're already underway in investigating how to get rid of that, the challenge associated with that and clean it up.
And it's just not the compost pile. I mean, we are working with the consultant right now on the piles of stuff that we've had at the landfill site for many, many years, and how we can sort of get rid of that. It could be the compost pile. I mean, we have brush piles, that type of stuff, but we do need to deal with the consultant on where this is placed and how we deal with that. So that's ongoing right now.
Okay, and good point, Councillor Scholdice. We know it's a problem and it will have to be addressed. Mark, your turn, and we're going to close this off pretty soon.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. It's my understanding that even if we did reopen the landfill, we would still have to have a transfer site because people are not allowed to dump the garbage directly into the pit anymore. People would have to put the garbage into the bins and then staff would move the bins back into the pit. And my brother has been to a municipal dump, regional municipality of Waterloo, and that's exactly the way they did it. But for them, it worked because it was a lot bigger dump. It was for the whole regional municipality of Waterloo, where a lot of people live. And the problem I see with our dump is we're too small to be run economically with the standards that the Ministry of Environment requires today. And unfortunately, it's just not economically viable to run a dump the size we would be today.
There's a motion on the floor, and Mark, your words are appreciated, but I think we're going to get this motion out of the way so we can go on to the subject you're talking about. There has been a mover and a seconder, Councillor McGill and Councillor Vink, and we have the language that Jill has prepared. I'll call the question on staff be directed to bring forth the council.
There's a recorded vote.
Yep, in a recorded vote. Jill, I'm going to hand it over to you. But
one other question, Mayor Mayhew.
Okay, yep, the last question, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just so I understand Councillor McGill correctly, he's saying that regardless of whether the site's open or closed, we're going to have a permanent transfer station there.
That's my understanding of it.
Because we need it with a landfill anyways. Okay.
Yep. From the footprints of dumps that he has experienced and the footprints of dumps that I have experienced up north in Northern Ontario, the public are not allowed to go within the cell region.
The garbage dump trucks can, but I understand the public can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jill, you call it at your leisure.
Yeah, could I just offer a comment on that?
Yes.
Last point?
Oh, sorry, Jill. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, two things. Councillor Vink is not here any longer, just so everyone's aware.
I have tried to reach out to him.
Yep.
But
by
also
phone,
the
if you want.
transfer site, so in the discussion, and Greg can correct me if I'm wrong, but with the options put forward, the location of the transfer site would remain the same if it was a drop-off zone. So I think that's essentially what you're talking about, Councillor McGill. Slightly different language, but the same thing. It's just if it's a transfer site, it's going somewhere else. If it's a drop-off zone, you still have the same features. It's just later, exactly as you described it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's unfortunate we can't bring Martin back for this. Even if we could call on the phone, if you could call Martin, if you can hear us, call my cell if you want. We've done that in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll call the question.
Okay.
All in favor, the staff bring us back that recommendation? Yep. Jill, oh, you're going to call me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right. Councillor McGill?
Yes.
Councillor Choi?
Yes.
Councillor Cowell?
Yes.
Councillor Vick is absent. So Councillor Bartlett?
Yes.
Councillor Scholdice?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wilkins?
Yes.
And Mayor Mayhew.
Yes.
And that carries.
Okay. Council, we are back to the recommendations of staff. You have heard the reports. Is there anyone that will entertain a motion? Councillor Cal.
I have a question that we didn't get to address before because Councillor McGill's motion came up. So my one comment that I had associated with this topic through the chair to the Councillor Scholdice was you had mentioned that at 249,000 was our previous contract with Antera, I believe, and that now we currently pay about 450,000. But I'd like to remind council that we recently received $200,000 in recycling, and I will be later making a notice of motion or a notice of future motion requesting a report back on that so that we can have a breakdown and understand exactly where that $200,000 came from. And if it is at all in result of having a new program with the rolly bins. So with that in mind, it does significantly bring down the cost of the fact that we are receiving garbage collection at the end of our streets. And I'd like to remind everybody that we heard absolutely horrific stories from Antera. So I really don't think it's fair to compare Antera to waste management when you consider some of the cost recovery that we're seeing in recycling.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kell. Yes, Councillor Bartlett, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept option 3.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Wilkins.
Request a recorded vote, please.
Yes, thank you, Michael. We'll see that that is done. Out of courtesy, I'll ask for last call for questions. Yes, Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
There is a very rapidly shifting environment in waste management in the world. And I don't mean the company, I mean in managing waste. It is changing quickly and it is changing frequently when we see our recycling coming back to us from China and other situations like that. And even the producer pay system, which I know most of those impacts are on recycling, but it is a portion of our waste. It is changing rapidly. So with that in mind, I do not support closing it at this time.
Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded. Jill, at your leisure, call the question. Okay, perhaps read the motion if you could. I'll request that the motion be read, Jill, and then call the vote.
That Southwest Middlesex Council approve option 3, the permanent closure of the Trillium Drive landfill site, and that staff be directed to initiate steps related to the exceedances of standards of groundwater.
Okay, that's good. That's important to have that second paragraph in that as well. Okay, Jill, at your leisure, call the vote.
Councillor Scholdice?
No.
Councillor Bartlett?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wilkins.
Yes.
I went in the wrong order. I apologize. Mayor Mayhew,
Yes.
Councillor McGill,
Yes.
Councillor Choi,
Yes.
and Councillor Cowell.
No.
Okay, and the motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Council. That was a sensitive subject, and I assure you that the chair respects all comments and all opinions on that. So thank you for your participation. Notice of motion, are there any? Jill, I don't think so.
I guess not. This, Councillor Cowell, you're gonna provide this in writing at a future meeting, or you want to do that tonight?
I'm making you a notice notice now. Think about it for the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so
Vote
you're
on it 2 weeks.
aware? Okay.
Yes. So my notice of motion is requesting a report back for a recycling breakdown and the producer pay versus our rolly bin program, and see to have a better understanding of where that sizable increase came from and if it's something that perhaps we can be accustomed to. The reason behind this motion is that at Roma and AMO over the last 2 years, we've heard a lot about the producer pay system and how it's been in flux, and there hasn't had a lot of information about it. And I find it very valuable to sort of understand where this money is coming from, where our waste is going. And I know that there are big changes supposed to be coming even in 2023. So I'd like to have a report back because I know I'm a bit more familiar with it, but I don't know if the rest of you are. So I'd love to, that's my notice of motion.
Okay, and you can work on that wording with Jill, and we'll look forward to that. I see no others. Correspondence and petitions. Seeing none. Unfinished business. None. New business.
Wait a minute.
Oh, just a minute.
Unfinished business. Oh, wait, where do we deal with the vouchers that
Under
we?
new business. New business.
Okay.
Okay, there were two items. First was Thames Valley School Board. Kristen, I believe you wanted to bring that to council's attention. Well, you froze on me, Kristen. Are you there? Yeah. Unmute if you can.
Sorry, Mayor, who are you asking for? Krista or Kristen?
Krista, I'm sorry, Krista, yeah. Thames Valley School Board, she wanted that taken out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I thought you were saying Kristen. I just wanted, it's a motion asking to maintain the composition of the Thames Valley School Board layout, because at this point, technically we're considered undersized. Middlesex County is considered undersized. And so the county has asked that we as individual municipalities support this to be able to continue getting the same sort of equitable, and in some cases, like our population doesn't match the populations of everyone else, but we would like to continue having the same two representatives that we currently have.
Councillor Cal, you'll move that, will you?
Yes, please.
I'll ask for a seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor Wilkins, yes, the discussion at County Council was that it's a more equitable benefit for rural Ontario and rural schools. So we certainly want to have our voice there. Are there any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor of endorsing the correspondence? Carried. Martin, you had a voucher you wanted to bring to the new business table. Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Yes, sorry I'm having so much trouble with the internet. Voucher number 002214, Aird and Merlis, John Masterin, gave us a report on December the 15th. My question is, the total bill was $16,000 and some dollars. My question is, how much of that bill was attributed to the December 15th, 21st meeting investigation report?
Okay, Martin, if we can't get you that information tonight, we'll certainly give it to you. I'll direct it to Kristen, and if she is unable to pull it up, we'll certainly get that to you, and we'll make it public. While Kristen's looking at that, I'll take Councilor McGill. I see your hand. I'll let Kristen address Councilor Vink, and then I'll get back to you.
Jill, did you want to? Okay.
Is that all right, Mayor Mayhew?
Yeah, that's fine, Jill. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we reached out to the lawyer, John Mascaron, this afternoon, and he said he did describe what could be made public. And so knowing that some of the reason for the previous integrity commissioner report had to do with ensuring confidentiality, we just wanted to make sure we were sharing everything that could be shared publicly. So I think Kristen is able to pull that together, but I don't know that she's able to pull it together and check it tonight. So she has started on that already, but I think we just want to confirm we've got the exact right amount for council so that it can be public.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jill. And Kristen, the chair agrees with that that information can be forthcoming once you have all the I's dotted and all the permissions granted. And Martin will make sure that whatever information we can convey to you, we will convey to you, providing it's within the boundaries of the law, so to speak. Okay. Yes, Councilor McGill, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'd just like to make a comment on that bill too. A year ago, December, council decided not to renew the contract of Mr. Mark McDonald, who was our integrity commissioner and our ombudsman. And I'm sure Aird & Bairless does a good job. They're a law firm based out of Bay Street in Toronto. And that John Mascaron's hourly rate is 5 times as high as Mark McDonald's. So I just like to remind council that that decision that was made back in December, and I know it was Mike Scholdice and Martin Vink and Ian Crothers and Krista Cowell who voted not to renew Mark McDonald's contract. And so they're the ones that are responsible for this big bill as I see it. Could have done it for a whole lot less.
Yep.
And the county pays Mark McDonald a retainer too to provide his services to municipalities in Middlesex County. So that was a bonus to us as well.
Okay.
So that's my comment on that bill.
Okay, that's history. We can't change it, but thank you for those comments. We have got county council and conference updates. There are none. There are no any announcements from councilors. Just to remind you. Yes.
I have one.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to take so much time, but I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but back in September, the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority voted to tear down the old house at Campbell Park, which I think was the only original building left there that was there when Mr. Campbell lived there. And since then, there's been a committee formed to try to save the house. They've raised over $12,000 towards repairing the house so it doesn't have to be torn down. And last week I was asked by Frank Nemchek, who was on the committee and who's the deputy mayor of Brook Elvingston, if I would sit on the committee as well and report back to Southwest Middlesex Council on what is going on. So I said I would do that. The house actually sits on the Brook Elvingston side of Campbell Park, but part of Campbell Park is in Southwest Middlesex. Okay. So I just thought I'd pass that information along.
Okay, fine. And you may have difficulty getting paid for that, sitting on that committee, Mark, because it's not part of our bylaws, but I can let you work that out with Jill, okay?
I don't expect to get paid. It's just a volunteer position. And I wouldn't really be representing the council because I haven't been appointed by council.
Yeah.
I'd just
Okay.
be reporting back to council.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you for that. Any further announcements? Perhaps I might add that the Glencoe Agricultural Society have a Valentine's dinner for your sweetheart. So don't forget to get your tickets at Ace Country Hardware. And you won't have to do dishes on the evening of February 14th. Any further announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on. No closed session. There's 8 bylaws in front of you. Can I have a motion to approve the readings of the bylaws as recommended? Yes.
Is it possible to take 2 of them, the third reading for 2 of them out so that Councillor Choi can participate in the rest of them?
Yes, we can. Okay. The third reading for 2 of them out. So why don't we deal with those now, Jill?
Great.
Okay, and the bylaws that are not in relationship to the conflict of Councillor Cal, you'll move those, Mary Gay? Thank you. Is there a seconder?
So moved.
Martin, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Amy, you're back with us. A motion to approve the balance of the bylaws as recommended by staff. A motion, Councillor Scholdice, Councillor Bartlett, all in favor? Carried. Future meetings, council, are there for your inspection. I want to thank each and every one of you tonight. Meeting is adjourned at 9:58. Good night, council.